We're definitely talking about gosh as well. A tiny little bit about gosh is that was a strange happening too, because gosh sort of came to me from spirit about 2 years ago, and I was ill and I was actually having chemo, and I'm clairaudient and I have been all of my life, and I was feeling very sorry for myself when this voice said, "We'd like you to start gosh." And I went, "Oh, okay, what's that?" And that's when something said back to me, "Gatherings over strange happenings." And I thought, well, that makes sense. And I said, "But not now, I don't feel up to it. I'll do it in spring." And of course, being me, I left it to the last possible moment in spring, but I did start it. And then COVID came along, and Wendy very kindly allowed me to run gosh on this platform, and it became a Zoom group rather than just a local meeting. But it was a strange happening. It certainly wasn't my idea to start gosh. It was given to me, including the name, which I love because I love acronyms, and Spirit knows I love acronyms. So that was one of my tiny ones. But I've had a life full of non-ordinary experiences across a fairly broad spectrum. So I don't just talk to the dead. I might talk to, somebody if it's necessary. I've just had a huge range. And I found there wasn't anywhere much to talk about that sort of experience where you've seen UFOs, or you also have had, visions, or you've got precognitive dreams, where you've got a mix of things. I realised when they asked me to start gosh that mostly people stick to their own thing. So if you're into electronic voice phenomenon, you'll be in a group that discuss that. And I realised that there's a lack in that we aren't expanding our understanding, because sharing our experiences are about sharing our wisdom. They're entertaining quite often, but they're also about expanding our beliefs about what is possible. It's something that's been done throughout time. So sharing our experiences, and that's what we're talking about, life experiences, is a human universal. It's across all cultures. It's part of who we are, sharing stories. And I like to think, I know there have been some little studies that show that people who listen to a lot of near-death experiences tend to have some of the same outcomes. They become less materialistic, for instance, quite often kinder. This for me is because when you listen to non-ordinary experiences, what happens is it opens up a little chink, what I like to call a portal of possibility in your own belief systems. So sharing non-ordinary experiences is vitally important, I think, to expanding what we believe is possible, and to the study of consciousness and reality itself. And I know that we all get ridiculed in mainstream science, but things are slowly changing, and I think it's time that we did share a bit more. So I've got a big one to tell that still has me slightly puzzled, but I'll leave it till the end. And I'm going to kick off, I think, with Kathleen. And Kathleen has very kindly offered to share today.
Thank you, Kim. My name is Kathleen Jenkins. The story that I wanted to share today was something that happened when I attended the AREI Symposium in Arizona in Scottsdale in 2017. The last morning that I was there, I was getting ready to pack to leave and going through my purse looking for money for the cab. We were going to share a cab to the airport. And as I opened my purse to the little compartment that where I always keep cash, I went to look for my money and it wasn't there. And I was a bit flabbergasted, but I went downstairs to the lobby to look in the sofa where I had sat the night before and purchased some wine. No money. No money had been turned into the front desk. Went upstairs to a room where we'd had pizza that night looking for some money. No money there in the trash or the pizza boxes. And I was really dumbfounded. My suite mate and I took my purse apart. Everything was on the bed, all the zippers unzipped. There was no money. And she actually took her pendulum in the room and tried to find the money, but she didn't get a definite it wasn't there, but we couldn't find it. Instead of being upset about losing, which I thought was probably going to be about $180, it had been such a wonderful weekend and I'd gone through this, all the love that was there, that I just surrendered and let go of my attachment to the money. And I went to breakfast and I told my friends it was gone, but I figured that whoever had found it needed it more than I did. My friends paid my cab to the airport. I got some cash because I had a card. And I sat there in the airport, opened up the pocket in my purse, couldn't imagine where that money was, zipped it back up. And as I was on the airplane, I was continuing to read this book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden. And this was the first time that I had really been introduced to the power of how you think, what you think and how you feel creates your state of being. And that there was this quantum field that you could step into and manifest your visions and dreams. And so I had opened the book, and thinking about my weekend, I remember getting very emotional and reading something that prompted me to say a prayer and set an intention about working towards connecting towards spirit in the ways that I'd seen folks do that at the conference. I put the book down. I'm back at the airport, get my luggage, go out into the car. I'm actually getting ready to turn on the key of my car. And all of a sudden I get a spirit nudge that says, look in your purse. So I open up my purse and I look in the compartment, and there's my money. I was just flabbergasted. The money was in the zipper compartment, and shaking, I pulled it out and I counted it. And in fact, I saved it. I saved the money because it's been touched by spirit. I had $110, and that was not the amount that I thought that I had. And 110 was an important number for me, because it's an 11, the master number 11 enhanced by 0. And years earlier, I'd had a numerology reading, where I discovered that both my name and my birth dates added up to 11. It was a master number 11. But was even more poignant about finding the $110, I'd written a series of intentions as part of a long prayer. And one of the intentions was, I am a beloved child of God, worthy, ready, and willing to receive my divine inheritance and miracle of $110,000. I share with others and live a life of abundant joy and prosperity. This wasn't $110,000. This was $110. But Spirit got my attention because I believe that I had surrendered to attachment to money and material things, and I'd committed myself on the airplane of where my destiny was going to take me. And as I reread now that intention, and the last part of that was, I share with others and lead a life of abundant joy and prosperity. And so this group gives me opportunity to share with others. And Spirit gave me the door, and you all have given me the opportunity. So I just wanted to let you know that there is mystery in the world. It was an airport. There was no money. Everyone had checked my purse. Someday I hope to gift my $110 to someone really special who needs to know and believe in spirit. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Kathleen, it's an amazing experience. I love hearing that. I mean, it just really opens up your mind to what is possible in the world. So thank you. I really appreciate you sharing today.
Reminded me of a healing case from about 20 years ago. I used to do hands-on healing at all the mind, body, spirit fairs along the Welsh northern coast and throughout the northwest England. One particular case, there was a lady there who had a very serious case of, well, I would describe it as arthritis, but what was happening was her hands and feet were growing into a different shape to the normal hands and feet, and she admitted at the healing that she had been attending a lot of UFO conferences and things, and I was when I did the healing on her, the energies felt extremely strange in this person, you know, and at the time of the healing, I didn't actually achieve a healing, but I invited her back to come to the healing circle where all the, you know, developing healers all train in Carnarvon in North Wales. And anyway, about 2 weeks later, she came to the training session for all the healers. There was 8 of us in the room, and we all worked on her together. And after about 15 minutes of giving healing to this person, a spiritual form came out of the body and floated up to the ceiling that wasn't a human form, as it were. And I think, you know, to try and explain what I think was happening was that you know, I've mentioned in the past energy blueprints and things, and you know, the way I see the body working is you've got the underlying field of of pure energy, almost like laser energy that comes out through the soul. And the soul then creates a holographic image of the person, which forms the aura around the body, and all the finer particles and molecules, the atoms and molecules, these cells in the body are all held in position by this electromagnetic field. But this particular person had almost like two souls in their body. And I think this was the reason why she was suffering from arthritis, was that the body was growing into the energy blueprint of the other entity that had entered her body. So the entity came out, and you could see it for a few minutes, and it attached itself to the ceiling in the room. And then, after a while, it moved further away where we couldn't see it anymore. But the person made a full recovery, and the arthritis in her hands and feet went away. I just thought it was a very interesting experience in terms of, the way that a walk-in perhaps can come into someone's body, and then the body grows into a different shape because, it's a different energy blueprint that the body's growing into. So anyway, I thought it was an unusual experience, and as I say, I only came across the one case. I've now retired, so I don't travel around anymore. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting, Rupert.
Thank you, George.
I certainly did, George. That's quite amazing, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a walk-in, or if you were, that opens up a lot of questions about other life forms trying to experience through us how we are, doesn't it? It could occur more frequently, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, well, I think it was a non-human type entity that had come in by these UFO conferences, as it were, that she'd been attending. She'd had the growth taking place for a couple of years, in her fingers and feet, and the way she held her body was totally not normal for her. As I say, the entity had taken over. But it was good that the power of 8 people doing hands-on healing was able to dislocate the energy from that person. Yes. I mean, I've had it happen on a second occasion at the Healing Circle, where one of the founders of the group, when I first started, I was asked to do healing on him, and again, an entity came out of his body then, but, I didn't really fully understand what I was doing at the time, because I hadn't been doing it very long, only about 6 months, but I mean, people do get energy attaching to them, and, it's good to clear out your aura from time to time, etc., through, Reiki, hands-on healing or something like that over there.
Yeah. Really fascinating one then. Yeah, thank you, George.
So I've had many cats over my lifetime, and a couple of them have been really good communicators after they pass. And the last one, we had this little white cat. We got him as a kitten, and he was so cute. We named him Coconut because he was white, and he had just this little patch of tan on his head and around the end of his tail. But he was so adorable. We got him home, and he pretty much took over my whole house. He smacked my dogs into shape, pretty much literally, and he let everybody know who was in charge in the house. So Coconut was in charge. Unfortunately, he got very sick, and he was still very young. He wasn't even 2 years old, but he started to have a lot of problems with bladder crystals. So the crystals would get stuck in his urethra, and then he couldn't pee, so we'd have to take him to the vet, and they would have to do a procedure, and then we'd bring him home and hope that it would be okay, and then it would happen again. And this happened a couple times, that we got to a point where the vet told us, they said, listen, it's just going to keep happening with him. He said, you have 2 options. Either we can put him down, and he was only 2 years old, he was a baby, or there's a special kind of surgery. He said it's very rare, but they will try it, especially with a young cat, where they will do like almost like a sex change operation. And they make, instead of him having a penis, because the urethra is very thin as it travels through the little penis, that if they open that area up and kind of turn him into a girl cat, that's how he explained it to me, that he would have a better chance of passing the crystals. Okay. So since he was so young, you know, we really wanted to give him a chance. So we opted for the surgery. And after the surgery, we brought him home, and he wasn't doing well, you know, for a while. And it was like he would have a good day and then would have a bad day. It was back and forth. And then after a couple days of this, I just said, you know, like, we can't keep putting him through this. So we brought him back to the vet, knowing that we were gonna have to put him down. And you know, it's just one of the hardest things you ever have to do in life, you know, making that decision. So I remember we went to the vet, and we were sitting in the waiting room, and he was in his little carrier, and there was a guy sitting across from me, and he had this big German Shepherd, okay? And I look up at the German Shepherd, and I see that the German Shepherd has this collar that has teeth that dig into the neck, okay? And I guess I wasn't in a great place because I was so upset about my cat and everything else that I just said to the guy, I said, doesn't that hurt him? And as I said it, my cat, who had been laying down in the cat carrier out of it, perked up, sat up, looked over at the dog, okay? And the guy says to me, he's a young guy, and he goes, no, actually, it doesn't bother him at all. He says, as a matter of fact, he pulls me down the street on my skateboard with that collar on. And I just shake my head because I can't believe that doesn't hurt the dog, you know? So we bring the cat in, and, you know, we said our goodbyes to him, and, you know, I know there's an afterlife, so I was preparing my cat for the party that he's going to be jumping into when he crosses over, you know, but it was sad. It was a sad moment. It was hard for me to do, and we were really shaken up by it. But anyway, after we left the vet, we're driving down the road, and who do I see but a guy on a skateboard and a dog pulling him down the street. So I turn to my husband and I say, there's that guy from the vet, and he's letting that dog pull him down the street with that collar on, you know? I can't believe he's doing that. I was so mad about that too, you know? I fell asleep that night, and in the morning, as I was waking up, a lot of times I will get messages in the morning. So I see my little coconut in my mind's eye. And he's in front of me. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, you know, I'm so happy to see you. And I said, how are you? And then all of a sudden he shows me a skateboard. So I say to him in my head, I said, oh, don't tell me you're skateboarding over there, you know? And all of a sudden, he shows me the German Shepherd in my mind's eye, and then he zeroes in to underneath the collar where those teeth go into the neck, and he brings my awareness to right where those teeth meet the neck, and he shows me that there are layers of fur and hair that are going in between the teeth and where the skin of his neck is. And he's assuring me that that German Shepherd is not affected by that collar. So I was blown away by that, because to me, that just showed me that he knew everything that was going on. He knew the conversation I had with that young man. He knew I was upset about it. And he wanted to ease my mind, calm me down a little bit about how I was not too happy about seeing that. So he's actually come to me a few times since then, and he's pretty amazing. He's a pretty amazing little cat. So that's one of my strange stories. And I'm happy to share that because I know we all have our pets and our furry animals, our furry friends, and they're always with us. And we just have to give them a shout out, and they'll come and make an appearance in our dreams. So.
Yeah, that's true. That was a lovely story, Catherine. Thank you. Yeah. We do have a few animal stories at Gosh, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very clever at getting contact animals.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because I wasn't even thinking about that skateboard. Like I was waking up, it was the first thing, I was so happy to see him. And I said, well, how are you? You know, and I figured he was going to show me where he was or, you know, show me my other animals. And he shows me a skateboard and I go, don't tell me you're skateboarding over there. Like, why are you showing me this? You know? And then all of a sudden he popped that German Shepherd into my head. So.
Which means he was really thinking about you, which is lovely. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But he perked right up in that vet's office when I was, you know, asking about that dog. He perked right up. So
fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing.
My story's just a little bit different. From 1995 to 2000, I was in a relationship that would involve power and control. And around about 2000, it started to get very dangerous. And I noticed at the time that I'd be the only person at home and I'd hear footsteps in the hallway. And every time that happened, I knew that my then partner was going to come home in a really, really bad, ugly sort of mood. It happened over a period of years. It also morphed as time went on, and because I had to move 15 horses, 3 cats, 3 potty goat, and a pile of stuff. So it took a lot of planning to have things organized to get out of there. Spirit would come to me and it'd give me, I wouldn't be thinking about anything, but I'd suddenly get, the thought would come into my mind or the words would come into the mind to go and check a particular shelf or to go and check the inside of the band of a hat. And that gave me the information that I needed to help me to get out of the situation, to stay safe, and also because I had invested in the property, to put together the legal case I needed to be able to get out and get on with my life and not be, you know, totally wiped out, lose my animals, lose everything. And to me, it was just the most incredible experience of how Spirit will look after you if you observe, if you will be open and willing to take the signs and at least look at, is that spirit leading me somewhere? Sorry about the tail. And so many people that I've worked with don't realize that they are being helped by spirit. They don't, they either ignore the signs, they think it's their imagination, but at least if people just take that time to follow up in that little way, you can, well, basically, like I said, it saved my life because I walked into the house on several occasions to look down the barrel of a gun. That's what the situation was like. And I know there's a lot of other people out there that face similar things. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that even the simplest signs, particularly when you're in trouble, when you're in an emotional state, they can be the ones that will help you to find the way out of what looks like an impossible situation. So I hope that helps somebody.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
Too. Lovely, Susie. And that's synchronicities that we're talking about as well, isn't it? The things that just pop up, and if you're really aware and listen and act on it, Spirit always has your back, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to share mine now, and I'm open to anybody's comments on this one. I don't think I've ever shared this one before. I'm not sure. So a couple of years ago, only about 2 or 3 years, becoming up 3 years, about 2.5, all right, let's not quibble. I was helping to replace a fence. And so my husband was there and my daughter, her friend, my daughter's partner, and some young men that were helping. My daughter and her friend Alana and I were the ones digging the new fence, the holes for the posts. When I was a child, my father taught me to use what we call a big bar. You know, it's taller than me, and how to use it for fencing so that you're using the weight of the bar to do the work, not you doing it so much. So my job was on the bar because neither of the girls knew really how to use it properly. And I'm using the bar. Alana's got the shovel to dig out the dirt, and my daughter has getting down on her hands and knees actually and getting the last of the dirt out before I use the bar again with her hands. And it was very hard going. The ground was very, very, very firm. We hadn't had a lot of rain. There were a lot of stones. Anyway, we were just chatting. There was nothing. Now, before I go any further, I'll just say I had some dreams about this property before we started doing work on it. And one of those dreams was that there was a body buried at the property in red material. And actually the plumbing had blocked up and they'd had to get a plumber in, and he'd done some digging in the backyard. And actually there was red material buried in the backyard, but no body. Anyway, so I was a bit on, I don't know, but I was aware that there was something about this place. But on the day in particular, that none of that was bothering me. We were just chatting, you know, as women do when they're working. And I lifted up the bar for the umpteenth time and used its weight, let it fall, and it just continued to fall through the ground as though there was nothing there, like it had just turned into thin air. And it went for about 20 centimetres maybe before my shock stopped it, and probably I just thought, what the hell? Now, by then everybody's looking at the hole, and Alana's looking at my face. Alana and I just sort of looked at each other. And I pulled out the bar and I could see down through this hole, which was about yay big, water rushing, so much water rushing by, so much water and stones under the water that I turned around and yelled at my husband, I think I've broken a water pipe. There's water come everywhere here. At the same time, I'm thinking, what idiot put a water pipe along a fence line? But anyway, and I turned back to look at the hole and it had closed over completely. So we stood there waiting for the water to sort of well up through the ground. Nothing. By then my daughter's down on her hands and knees scrabbling through the dirt, and she literally said, I'm going to find that water, because it became apparent that there was no water. Now, my daughter saw the water, which is why I'm sharing this. I know she's a family member and a skeptic and go, well, you know. But she saw it, and Alana saw the thing go through the ground. She didn't see the water. She didn't even look, I don't think. I think she was still so worried about the way the bar just went through the ground. And we left off then because it was a bit of a shock. We just thought, okay, we'll just leave this hole alone for now. And the next day, the young men actually decided they'd finish that hole, and they needed the bar. There was no water. They went quite a bit deeper. The ground was hard again. There was no water there. So that one still has me a little fascinated as to what that was about. The thing about non-ordinary experiences, as we all know, is that there's so many different types and they can't be replicated. Like, I wasn't in charge of that particular experience happening. Something allowed it to happen. You can't replicate that in a scientific laboratory. And I think the world is starting to change now very slowly, hopefully. Understand that the veracity of human testimony.
I'm going to share one that happened just recently. Very interesting. I was in a remote area of southern Arizona. I went down there to watch the meteors. Tuesday, my friend and I decided just to go for a drive and check out the landscape, see what we could find. We came across this small town close to about 50 miles from the Mexican border. And as we were driving through, we came across this abandoned church. It actually kind of had like sort of a weird, creepy vibe to it, but we stopped because I wanted to take photographs. Beautiful glass, even though some of it was broken, but this church was just like fascinating. There was actually like owl pellets, so barn owls had been living there. So there was just like this, like, is this fascinating? I don't know, but I can't look away. So I took a bunch of pictures, and there was a plywood board that was blocking the entrance, and there was a heart on it. And I was just fascinated with this duality of this broken church and then this heart, right, on this wood. And I I took pictures of it. Anyway, all of a sudden my friend says, oh my gosh, look at this, the odometer, 333 point stop. I got to take a picture. And I took a photograph of that. So, I was just feeling like there was this cosmic nature to our journey at that point. That night I was email, whatever, Facebook, I had a friend request. And in the meantime, I had gone through my photos and looked at them on my camera and had noticed there were initial DJ. I don't know, DJ. So I'm going through my friend requests and I pull up this person right in their introduction, bereaved parent of beloved DJ. Go back through my photos. Yes, indeed. In the middle of that heart, DJ. So I sent the pics to this person because I'm like, well, what do I have? She writes back immediately, my son sends in the form of hearts. That just blew me away.
Right before the winter solstice, I was very much interested in the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that was occurring in the sky. In the States, we could see it, and I could see it where I'm located in Connecticut. I was also preparing a sermon for my spiritualist church, and I called it the 2020 Star of Bethlehem and Hope, and I based a lot of it on that conjunction, and I wove that in as part of my story. Every night before the conjunction, which occurred on the winter solstice, which is December 21st, every night that the skies were clear, I would run outside at around 6 o'clock and look for this, and I would take pictures, and I could see the planets getting closer and closer as the days came up to the 21st. The 21st came, and wouldn't you know it, it was a very cloudy night out, and I thought, oh, I want to see it. It's the solstice. I've got to see it again tonight. So I was praying on and off. And around the time to go out and look, I looked, and wouldn't you know it, the clouds parted. So I was able to see it. And I took some pictures, and suddenly I was filled with this great joy and happiness. Is the only thing I could describe it as. Like the heavens had touched me. And I was so thankful that the clouds had parted. It felt like it was a gift. And so I said this, I just put my hands up in the middle of the street. I started praying to heaven for thanking them for this. And then I went and took some more pictures, and I went into the house. And so that was beautiful. I was just like on cloud nine. I felt so filled with spirit. Well, I'm looking at the pictures, and there's a picture at the very end that I didn't take. It looked like a blank, dark picture of nothing. And I said, oh no, something else is here. So I blow it up, and sure enough, in that picture, at the very end of all these pictures was like those old time negatives in the film. I could see the portrait of a woman. So I sent it the same picture to several friends of mine that are medium. And they said they saw either a wolf or a bear, which I couldn't see. But then later on, I saw it, the wolf and the woman. And I was like, oh my God, this is a spirit picture. I've never had a spirit picture before. So I was double elated. A friend of mine from the church who was all part of this drama, she took a picture, even though it was after the 21st, and she picked up a picture of a woman. We're pretty sure it was her daughter who had passed in the same thing. So really wonderful Christmas Star of Bethlehem experience, and lots of joy and happiness. And that's my story.
I've not done this over Zoom before, so it's been an interesting one. I've spoken to some people about this experience I had. It was about 3 years ago. One weekend, nothing special. We'd had a few friends around. We'd had a nice Sunday lunch, and it was getting late on in the evening. And I was lying on the sofa. It was probably about 10, half 10. Dozed off to sleep. I think there was still some kids' TV on the TV in front of me from when my daughter was up, but anyway, that was still on in the background. And then I was woken up. All I saw was this pin of light just appear, probably about 5 foot away from me, and it was a very, very small pin of light. And it rose. It got bigger and bigger and bigger to about the size of a large orange or something like that. And it was like an oscillating ball of energy. It was a very unbelievable thing. And I sort of woke up pretty much straight away and sort of said, wow, what is this? Ball of light, it came across the room, and it went round the back of my head, and then it moved to between myself and the TV. And then from the center of this ball of light, this figure appeared. And it just grew in front of me, directly between me and the TV, probably about 4 or 5 foot tall, maybe. Quite difficult to distinguish what it was. It looked like it was a male figure. I didn't recognize it as somebody that I actually knew, and it was amazing. Felt there was some intelligence there as well, and it looking at me, but it was quite a smile on its face. It was lovely, and it was emitting love as well. It was beautiful, and it was about 30 seconds that it was just there, and then it suddenly went straight back into this ball again, and then the ball just disappeared, and that was it, gone. And I was just sat there amazed, you know, thinking, what on earth was that? And so that was the first part of it. Anyway, about half an hour later, I was thinking I should go to bed. And of course, I'm lying in bed. My wife's next to me. She's asleep. And I'm just thinking to myself, what was that? I am a believer in spirit. I'm a believer in that we have guides. And I just asked the question in my head, you know, was that you? Meaning, was that one of my guides? As soon as I said that, there was a big inrush of energy right into me torso. And it was like a real high frequency energy that I felt within my body. And I just said in my mind again, I just said, oh, wow, that's amazing. And as soon as I said that, it intensified to the point where it was probably unbearable. And so I said in my mind, that's really hurting now. And as soon as I said that, it pulled itself away, and that was it. It disappeared. Since then, I mean, I used to sit in a physical mediumship circle a couple of times through my life. I was at the time as well. And I asked one of the mediums who was in trance, actually, if they could give me some guidance on that. And they said that it was one of his strong guides that had come to show itself on that evening, and it would come again at some point in the future, in this lifetime, but when I was ready for it. Now, it hasn't come back since. That was just over 3 years ago. But yeah, so that's my story.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy, very much.
Hi, everyone. This is a story about spirit connection. Probably about 12 months ago, I was doing a meditation. Clearly, in meditation, I'm in the mind and had no thoughts, and in popped an image of my dad. And he had this big cheesy look on his face, and I go, oh, wow. And I sort of felt that I really hadn't had much connection since his passing. And the next night, I said, before I went to sleep, I said, Dad, if that was you, I really need you to give me a little bit more. That night, through the middle of the night, I was laying in bed and I could feel a cramp starting to come up in the calf of my left leg. And I'm laying there and I'm sort of pulling my foot back, trying to sort of like just do a laying stretch, and it's not working. It goes into full-blown spasm. And I bolt upright in bed, flinging my legs out, startled my wife. Anyway, I'm about to do lean up to the wardrobe and do a calf stretch to get rid of it. And I look down at my calf, my leg, and there's a ball of light in the calf of my leg, about the size of a ping pong ball. And I watched this for about 10 seconds or so. As it slowly diminishes, the spasm of this, it just disappeared. Now, the significance of this is my dad was a healer. I sort of parked that, and I haven't really shared that with anyone apart from my wife. It's my story.
Thank you, Martin.
It involves my guide. 2 years ago, my father passed away. He died on the 1st of August, 2018. He went downhill really fast. I had visited, and I had to travel to go visit him. So I saw him, and then I turned around and came back home. And I was sitting in my living room all by myself very early one morning. This was before he passed away, 3 days before he passed away. And I'm all by myself in the morning, and I mean like really early in the morning, 5 a.m., 4:30. And all of a sudden I get this powerful love for peace, no word, but just this unbelievable reassurance. But I knew my father was going to die. Didn't think that feeling came from my father, but it came from somewhere. Now, I was a believer and am a believer in guides too, but I just thought, well, I just know what I know, so I have that knowledge, I'll be okay. And like 3 days later, it was August 1st, and I realized that August 1st, 2018 was a palindrome, and that was a Wednesday, and my father loved palindromes. He was just a real puzzle guy, and he loved all those kinds of things, and palindromes were really important to him. Well, that's the day he died. And I did get in the car and drive up there because I knew I had to go. And it was about a 2.5 hour drive, and I got there just in time. And he passed away very peacefully. But it all started with her coming in and saying, yeah, your father's going to pass, but everything's great. And there's no doubt that the spirit is here with us every day, whether we know it or not. And it's even more exciting when suddenly we know them like a personal friend. That's my story.
Thank you, Mike.
I'd just like to really thank all the people that shared, especially those from the group. It was very kind of you to agree to share. In itself, it shows how much it's valued by people to listen to stories that are vastly different to their own experiences.
I'd just like to thank Kim for organising this session. It was absolutely brilliant.